Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think Your Way to an Epic Life. And we are visiting with someone for the second time that you're seeing her, third time that we've recorded a podcast. That second one, we'll talk about why you haven't seen that and why you never will. It won't see the light of day if Ryan Major has anything to say about it. So anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. Ryan and I have been together in a coaching relationship for almost 3 years. 3 years. Okay. And we have been incredibly close friends. And I've got to tell you, it has been an honor and a privilege to watch the growth of this young lady from who she was when she walked into coaching to who she is today. And it's going to be even more fun to watch who she is 5 years from now, let alone 10. So she's going to share her heart with you today. She's going to share some tips. My goal for this podcast is that you always walk away with actionable steps, things that you go, man, if she could do that, I could do it. So Ryan Major, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for letting me try again. I just love you so much. And I love our friendship. And I literally told my friend the next day after we recorded, I was like, I don't even know what I said, but it can't be like, we can't share that. Like we need scrap it. So then when I texted you the other day, I was like, she's going to tell me it's okay. Like she's going to let me try again.
So, always grace, right?
Yes. That's one of the core values of my whole business is we lead with grace.
So why is it that someone who from the outside looking in has everything is perfect, life is just perfect? Why is it that you needed grace and just now when things are going so perfectly, you just had the best year of your life in almost every major area? So how does that happen to somebody who's on top of the world?
Tell you what, it's slow and then fast, right? We came off of this huge year of rocking it out. The team did 149 sides. We were at 43 million in production. It was amazing. My husband and I moved into our dream home. It's our daughter's senior year. Everything looks awesome and everything is awesome. But it was almost like I came off of that and it was like an exhale that I wasn't prepared for. And so I found myself when you first got me in 2020 and I didn't know what the crap I was doing. And I was just like, I don't know. I just had this huge year because in 2019, I had my biggest individual year, 52 sides and all the things. And I was like, I just don't know if I can do it again. And I felt the exact same way coming into this year was like, I don't know if I can do it again. Everyone's saying the market is shifting, but I have to be okay. And I don't feel okay. And I don't know what to do, but I have to get up and lead gen because Gary says you lead gen triple time, right? So everything you've been doing, you have to do it 3 times as much. And so I'm telling my team, everything we've been doing, you have to do 3 times as much. And I was kind of just and so when we recorded this podcast a week ago, I guess it was only a week ago, it was bubbling out of me. I couldn't get it together. And so, the cool thing was that we recorded the podcast and then the next day I left for my Empire Circle retreat with Her Best Life. And, I got to be in a room with 40 women who are some of the top level business owners in our country and talk through all of that. And not just how we feel around it, but really, truly, what are we going to do? What's our action step? So I left there with a 72-hour goal, which we implemented. And now we're working through the exact steps of how we make that happen. And I walked away with an action plan and a focus. And I feel like, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. So, yeah.
Phew, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is a lot. So I've got to back up just a little bit. So you are at the end of your rope and the word I hate the most that I hate to ever use myself is you were overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to leave and get on a plane Now let's back up just a little bit. Was there ever a point in Ryan Major's life that when you were overwhelmed, you would have chosen not to get on that plane?
Yeah. And in fact, I left on Thursday of last week. And on Tuesday of last week, I was in conversation with an agent on my team who was discussing exiting the business, right? And like, we're trying to make a plan for him. And is there a way we can keep him in our world and all of that? And I remember I was like, do I go? Like, if I go, what's going to happen? So of course, my ride or die, Megan, who is my world, right? She's like your Kristen. She's my director of operations, my best friend. Like we do life and business together. She's like, get your ass on that plane. Well, of course, Megan wouldn't say ass because she's perfect. But the sentiment was there. And so as I'm getting on the plane, she's like, we got this. I'm literally on the phone with her and I'm like, okay, so I mean, what do we do? She's like, I got it. Get on the plane, go. Yes, ma'am. So I did.
Wow. So when you're at your worst, even at this level, which to put it into perspective for people that may not be in real estate, Ryan is in the top 1% of all realtors in her region. Is it the whole region? Mm-hmm. So to be in the top 1% and still struggle with these things, does the fear ever go away?
I think it just changes. Because as the business changes and evolves, so does your responsibility level. So like, I was thinking about this because one of the gals that's in Empire Circle this year, oh my God, I love her. And she's my new referral partner for North Carolina. So if you guys need one, let me know. I'll get you her contact info. But she's an individual agent about to make her first hire. And I like get like goosebumps for her because I'm like, oh, do you remember what that was like when you were only responsible for you and one other person? Oh my gosh. Oh, tell me about your day. Like, tell me what that's like. You get to just like love on your clients and there's not all this noise. And I say noise like it's a bad thing, but it is a blessing because I think of these families who are in my world that have an opportunity for a different life because they're on the major team, right? And that's wonderful. And I'm like so amazed by God's grace that I get to do this every day. But I'm so excited for my friend Heather because she like, it's all so like scary and exciting. And she gets to just like pick that person. And so I think the fear just changes. It's like, I now have to think of if I wake up in the morning and my mindset is off, I don't just have to get it together for me and for my family, but like I have to get it together for me and my family and the future generations of the other people's families who are in my world. And that's heavy. Like that's heavy. But I'll tell you, Wendy Papasan, who for our KW people, she's, kind of a big deal. She spoke life into me this weekend in Mexico. And she looked at me and she goes, you cannot want this more than they do. And I was like, you're right. So when I came home, I told the team, I was like, I want the world for you, but I can't want it more than you do. Same for our kids, right? Like we want our kids to be wildly successful in whatever that means for them. But like, I can't want it more than they do. And so that gave me such a peace because I'm like, here's the business, walk in, let's roll. It's here. I'm here to support you and to tap into it with you, but I can't want it more than you. And so that gave me some freedom in the fear. And fear might be the wrong word. I don't know.
Well, you're saying, what you're saying is just in a different way is what can you control?
Yes.
Right? What can you control? Really? What can you control, Ryan?
I can control the way I show up every day and how much effort I put in. And I think that for me, the hardest part is that, and I'm not a perfectionist by any means, right? Like, but I am so goal oriented that I will hyper fixate on that goal. And so I will show up every day and try to like grind as hard as I can to get there, instead of coming in, loving on my people, taking care of the clients that I am responsible for taking care of, and knowing that if I'm taking care of my people well enough, they're going to do their part and take care of their people. And, you know, I think it's part of the growing pains of being a new team owner, because I'm only like 2.5 years in on this deal, which is
I
nuts.
know.
Like, it's nuts. I'm like, oh God, that's crazy.
Well, okay, so let's go to that. You started, this also for anyone that's listening or watching, if you happen to be watching, Ryan and her husband were our very first podcast, and that's really fun to go back and look and kind of get, because you get to hear when they were babies, when they were kids, when they couldn't afford anything, and now where you are. Let's trace that a little bit, right? What are some of the things that someone who's watching this, who really, really wants a better life, but doesn't know what to do to get there? What did you start?
Okay. And you're going to love this, because this part of us is so the same, but I am a personal growth and development junkie, just like my bestie, Kara. We are like all in. We're like, did you listen to this? Did you read this? Did you see that? But back, like way back, like high school back. So like 2002, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was the National Youth Cutting Horse Association officer. And my youth coordinator, Danette McGuire, her son is getting licensed through K-Score. So cool. He doesn't live here, but I think he might actually live in New Mexico. He might need to come check out you guys. But anyway, rabbit trail. She would sign all of her emails with an inspirational quote, right? And so like, you shoot for the moon, you land among the stars, like all that kind of stuff. She was the person that gave me how to win friends and influence people. So when I was like 14, she gave me that book. And then she gave me the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And so I started there. So I was 14 years old. That's when it started. So then when I started in real estate, and I was hyper fixating on how to be a successful realtor, I'm like, where do I turn? Now, I will say my broker, when I first started, she was awesome. And she gave me Peak Producers my first day on the job, which is old school Brian Buffini DVDs. She said, your job is to watch these. And so I sat in the living room of her office and I watched them. And so I'm like, okay, this little Irish man is telling me calls, notes, and Popeyes. So I'm going to do calls, notes, and Popeyes. Who am I going to call? I was sharing on a podcast, a panel a couple weeks ago. And it got reshared, the video that got reshared on Facebook yesterday, but it was making me laugh because I was saying on that panel, when you're a new agent and you sit in those trainings and people are like, well, 90% of my business comes from past clients and personal referrals and my sphere. And you're like, but I don't have any past clients. Like, nobody knows I'm an agent. I just moved here from, wherever. I don't have a sphere. There's all those limiting beliefs. And so I was so thankful for that curriculum, because it immediately taught me, like, this is what you do every day. This is how you grow that. So for me, for agents who want action steps, because I'm very action oriented, it's like deep dive. You want to know, like, study the top 1% of the realtors, find out whoever that is in your market and ask, like, call them and ask them. Right? Like, there was a gal who was on stage at Mega Camp whenever it was digital. I don't know. I remember so vividly. I was watching it from my couch up on the TV. And she was in Denton, and that's only an hour away. And so I found her on Instagram, and then I dug up her cell phone number and called her. Like, I paused the thing and I called her and I said, I'm watching you on stage on Mega Camp right now, and I just think you're really cool. And I want to mastermind with you. I want to learn from you. And now she's one of my dearest friends. Like, raise your hand, find out who it is.
See that? See, I wish I could give you a megaphone right now so you could scream that. In my entire career, I have done that. I have asked people to lunch, people that intimidated me so much. I just like, oh my God. And not one time has anyone ever said no. Not one time.
Yeah.
And how valuable has her input been in where you are today?
So, you know what the most valuable was? It was not really anything that she showed me how to do or taught me how to do. It was that she believed I could do it. Same as like my relationship with you, right? Like, we coach all the time and every week. And I'm like, this is this crap that I'm dealing with today. And we'll like muddle around in it and try to make sense of it. And all of that tangible stuff is great. But it's the fact that Kara says, no, you're a badass and you're going to continue to be one. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember. And another thing, like my husband and I were talking about last night, I would literally open my door and show every realtor who asks every single thing that I have done to grow my business without a scarcity mindset, because 99.9% of them aren't going to do it. So it's like, yeah, it literally, anyone can be this successful. They just have to be willing to like actually wake up every day and do the things that will make them successful and believe that they can be. And, so yeah, I mean, that's literally how the MREA was created, right? Like, they were like, here,
MREA.
The book behind you, on the video, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Like, that's literally the guidebook of how to build a millionaire real estate business. And they were like, let's just write it and make a book about it and sell 1 billion copies and know that there's no scarcity around that, because what it actually takes to do it's really hard. And so people aren't going to do it.
As Brian Buffini says, success looks a lot like overall, something about what is his saying?
Success is shows up in overalls and looks like hard work, or something like that. Isn't it a Teddy? I think it's a Teddy Roosevelt quote.
Yeah, he gives credit to everyone else. He, like he says, nothing is original. And that's the thing. So someone wants to become in the top 1%, and right now they're in the bottom 1%.
Mm-hmm.
What should be the first step?
The first step is that they need to figure out what they're doing every day, not what they're going to do or what they should do, but they need to figure out what they're actually doing every day and write it all down. Like, at 8 a.m., I texted Kara my accountability. At 8:15, I went to the bathroom. At 8:25, I texted Justin and told him that he has to pick up the kids. At 9 a.m., I called 4 clients. It took 30 minutes. These are their names, and this was the result. Like, literally granular, right? Because what they're going to find is there's a lot of busy, but there's not a lot of work. And so, like, how does Dusty say it? I've been busy. I've been so busy. But it's true. It's like, I'll even find that in my own world where, like, I'll go into the office in the morning, which is why I protect my mornings now, stay home until after huddle so that I can do my top 20%. But like, I'll go into the office and then I'll go and I'll check on the ISA team and see what they're doing. And then the next thing I know, I'm rewriting scripts for 30 minutes, conversations. And so like, next thing I know, I'm like, oh, well, we could say it this way, and this way. And then I'll walk past the agent's office and one's like, oh, can you look at this CMA real quick? And I'm like, oh yeah, let me do that. And then it's 2:00 and I'm like, oh, I have an appointment in 30 minutes. Like, cool. So protecting your time and really focusing on what you're actually doing.
There you go. There you go. Okay. So what, how important are relationships?
The most, like the most important. So I can track back my relationship with my number one client. He is a builder and a developer, and he accounts for like way more deals every year than I would like to admit, right? Like if I ever was like, listen, you're responsible for like 32% of my business, like I would never want him to know he has that much control, right? Right? Like,
This is a podcast, right? That's
he won't listen to it. He'll be fine. He'll be like, oh, she did another one. But I can track that relationship that's 6 years in, and I consider him one of my dearest friends. That relationship came from one conversation that I had with a woman who was 5 steps removed from him at the gym 2 days after I got my real estate license, standing outside right by my car. So like I can literally say I stood in front of my car. I talked to Heidi. We talked about how I remember the conversation. We talked about how she wanted to buy land on the other side of town because she didn't want her son, who's now graduated from college, to drive around this curve when he got his driver's license. Like this was the conversation. Now, I never sold them any land, but I was able to sell 4 properties for them, which led to that developer watching me work with them. And then he gave me 2 more. And then he brought me in on one subdivision. And now he's brought me in on the next subdivision. And like now we have this relationship where he calls me and he's like, okay, I'm looking for this. How can we, like, we strategize, right? So that's one example. All because I had a relationship with this gal. So, and by the way, I knew like 4 people in town when that happened. So the ability to connect with people and remember details about them and call on it and actually like really listen, like those are the skills, those soft skills that people call them. They're invaluable in today's real estate market. Invaluable, because our kids that are teenagers right now, that's something that they're missing. And so that generation is hungry for that. And our parents' generation expects that. And our grandparents' generation demands that, right? And so when we're moving through the world, to sit there and say, Kara has a Dalmatian, her name is Dottie, she actually eats salad, and I know that, and Stan's obsessed with this dog, right? Like, I know that. So if I was trying to sell you something, I could immediately be like, Dottie would love this house because it's walkable to the salad bar, right? Like, boom, done.
Oh, I love you. Okay, so I know that is probably, there's so many keys, right? From a lack mentality to an abundance mentality. That has to be one of them. Like, how can you possibly truly love that many people, Ryan?
Okay, well, I don't love everything about everyone, right? But I feel that everyone deserves to be loved and deserves to be catered to. And one of my core values is grace. So, and my number one core value personally is impact. So I don't know if I ever told you that. My 3 core values are impact, fun, and growth, in that order. But grace is right up there with it. So if I'm going to impact people and if I'm going to grow, then I have to meet them with grace and love and understanding. And so I fully believe that no matter how many realtors there are in my area, which like by the way, there's like 6,000 people in my town. And I think like 2,500 have their real estate license. Like it's like ridiculous. It doesn't matter. Like there's always going to be enough. Like there's no lid on the possibilities. And so if I feel that I can impact someone and make their day better, whether they buy a house or not, by showing them the grace of the Lord and like I don't care what you look like when you show up. I don't care. I might care what you smell like because super sniffer, but like, I just want to help you have a good day. Right. I used to challenge my kids when they were little and they were getting out of the car. I would give them a number, like a totally random number. I'd be like, Bethany would be getting out and I'd be like 36. And she was like, what? I'm like, 36 people. You're going to make 36 people smile today. She's like, I'm not even going to see 36 people today. I'm like, I don't care. Do it. So that's why, like, and I don't have to have like a relationship like I have with you, with everyone, right? Like where we are actually in active, deep relationship. That's very sacred to me. And I don't have that with very many people. Like that's like my inner onion people. But everybody deserves to be loved on.
Everybody does. I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think that your capacity grows as you grow. You have the ability. I have been to two Tony Robbins seminars, and there's no way that one person can have an entire thousands and thousands of people captivated if he doesn't love them.
Yeah. He is like, I want to go to one of his things with you. Like, I think my head would actually explode.
It would. It would. It absolutely. It absolutely would. I just hope he starts to do them live again. That is my. There's not Zoom. I'm so grateful for it. That's how we're recording this podcast and bringing this wonderful. But there's nothing like being live and in person. So speaking of which, how important you are in this top 1%. And you mentioned this group that you went and got to talk to these 40 women. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so if you had asked me 5 years ago if I would be a part of an intensive experiential group of 40 high-level business women who travel around the world together, I would be like, you've lost your mind. That sounds like actual hell. Like women can't do that. Like high driver women, right? I would say 99% of us in the room are high Ds. You get us all in the room, there's a lot going on, right? So, but I will tell you, it has changed my life so much, so much. In fact, right before I got in this call, I was on the phone with a referral from one of them. Like, and that's the icing on the cake. Like, I'm not even worried about that. So Her Best Life is an organization, and their mission is to amplify the lives and voices of women in business around the world. That's the mission statement. And they do that by, they have a huge in-person event every single year. The first one I went to was in San Antonio. This one last year was in Scottsdale. And then this year is going to be in Nashville in September. And tickets are on sale now, herbestlife.com, I think. I don't know. We'll have Ben put it in the show notes. I'll text it to him. But so I went to this conference and I thought it was, you listen to their podcast. They have a podcast. It's called Empire Building Podcast. And Sarah Reynolds, Wendy Papasan, Seychelle Van Poole, and Thea Williams are the hosts. And so you think, okay, I'm going to listen to this podcast and I'm going to learn how to run a massive real estate business. Then I'm going to go to this conference and, Sarah Reynolds is going to teach me how to do lead gen, right? Like, that's what I thought. I thought I was going to get there and like, she was going to be like, here's all my lead gen pillars. That was not it. In fact, I remember calling you on my way home from the conference and I was like, all they did was like, make me feel stuff. And that was stupid. And I didn't like that. Like, we talked, like the first time I went, they had a therapist on stage and literally like we had to talk through trauma and like deal with trauma that we had never dealt with before, that they knew if we didn't take the time to deal with that, we weren't going to be able to move to the next level. Then they had a whole exercise where we literally practiced saying no. So they had everybody in the room, so like 400 women, write down like what their dream whatever would be, right? Like, it's my dream to have, I don't know, a house on the beach in Australia, right? And so they put all these things on these little slips of paper, and we walked around, and we could only say yes to one thing. And so there were all these freaking ridiculous, amazing things floating around the room. And if you said no, you got to keep finding, like, find what your thing is. But if you said yes, you were stuck, and you couldn't, unless you sold that slip of paper to somebody else, you couldn't say no, right? And so it was a really cool activity, but what it taught me is what you had been trying to teach me, was that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so anyway, I digress. I go to that. They have a couple different levels of membership, and the level of membership that is the most intense is called the Empire Circle, and it's an invite only level. You have to apply. They review your applications, and then the board accepts you, and you literally get to go all these crazy places around the world. Like this year, we just got back from Mexico. There's a trip to Morocco in October. We're going glamping in the bottom of the Grand Canyon in April. Like Belize is in, I don't know, sometimes. So there's all these trips, right? The trips are great, but what's better is the conversations that happen at like 10 o'clock at night. And you sit there and it's like, I'm struggling with this in my personal life, or I'm struggling with this in my business. Or if you had an agent on your team who was struggling with this in their personal life, how would you counsel them through that? Like, how do you love them through that? Someone on your team has a disease, like, like a terrible disease, and they're having to deal with this huge medical issue. What do you do? How do you support them? So it's been the hugest blessing, and it has, it's changed the way I think about friendships with other women, which is massive. Right. And it's changed the way I went from a team of 4 to 16 since joining the group. Like, that's cool, because you see it in practice. And the relationships, like, and I know I'm rambling, but the relationships are really cool. So when I had a couple agents exit my team all in the same week this year, and I'm sure you got one of the flares that Megan was throwing up. I know we talked that day. Megan threw up a flare to a couple of the founding members of the group, and they stopped what they were doing in their business and they called me. And the biggest thing that happened that day is that one of them gave me permission to quit. She said, okay, so you want to quit? Cool, quit. Go home, eat some candy, take a shower, and come back tomorrow and lead your team. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that. So anyway, that is what that group has done for me. And whether it's this group or another group, if there's something that you can latch onto where you can have people who really truly pour into you, the business will come.
Absolutely.
It's not just a nonsense. Like, it's not just a bold law that looks good on a canvas. Like, your business really does grow to the extent that you do.
It truly, everything does. That's, I think, where people are missing out is with all the circles of life. If you just pick one and you get better at that one, every other part of your life is going to be positively influenced. This is so much fun. Girl, we could do this for hours and hours and hours. So what are some books, podcasts, something that you can leave people with that if they watch this at all, they fell in love with you. And now they want you to, hey, now what do I do, coach? What's my next step? You are also a coach, which is cool.
I am, and I'm accepting new clients, so we can do that.
Let
me know. So books. So I have this on my desk. This is the One Thing core values deck. It goes with the One Thing book, which is behind you on the camera, written by Jay Papasan and Gary Keller. And that book is life-changing. My husband is actually in coaching with the One Thing coaching program. And our coach has helped him finish a children's book that's been in process for like 100 years. And so that's really cool. So the One Thing, I definitely recommend. The deck that goes along with it helps you identify what your 3 personal core values are. And then that allows you to make all your decisions very easy. So that would be number 1. Atomic Habits, always Atomic Habits, forever, for the rest of my life, Atomic Habits. And let's see, I'm going to give one more book. For fun, I'm going to say Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Like, and listen to the audiobook. You'll be so glad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then for podcasts, Empire Builders, Brian Buffini, Think Like a CEO, the Real Estate Team Building podcast with, I think it's Jeff Cohn. That one's really good. And this one.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Right? Come on. Well, thank you. You brought so much value, Rye. I appreciate you. I love you. And I'm just so excited. What do you see? Just a little peek 5 years from now. What's Ryan Major doing?
Listen, 5 years from now, I'm only going to have one kid at home and she'll be a junior. I see a mountain house. I see lots of time with our horses, and I see the business being just absurdly huge. Like I see this, like different veins of the business so that we can spread out and impact people in other ways too.
Outstanding. Well, keep doing what you're doing. How much, how important is it to you to give back?
Oh, it's like massive. If I could, like, I find myself being overly generous financially sometimes. I'm just like, oh, here, like you need this cup of pins. Here, take all my pins that I have. I'll go get different pins. No, I don't even like these pins. I'll get different pins. Because my life motto is what you give out in slices comes back to you in loaves. I stole that one from Brian Buffini also. But it's so true. Like I've never once given something away and regretted it. Whether it's a piece of knowledge or money or whatever, like if I don't get a blessing back from it, at least I get a lesson.
Right. And I think people have kind of a backwards thought process about giving, that there's some kind of lack to it. And it's just the opposite.
No, I love it. Like last night we were out with my parents and Mom and I were walking, like, okay, tangent. My dad and my husband were waiting for the car at the valet, but we were at a casino and it was going to be like a 20-minute wait. So we were going to go back in and Mom's like, well, I got to go to the ATM. I'm like, no, here's $20. Just go do $20. Let's just go. It's fine. And she was like, I can go to the ATM. I'm like, I don't care. We're short on time. We're going to go play, take my $20. Let's go now. And we had the best time in like 6 minutes. Because that's all it took to get rid of that $20. And we didn't do it. We had a blast.
Oh, that's awesome. That is cool. Well, you obviously have very strong family ties, very strong relationships. You're financially in a wonderful place. You're physically in a better place than you've been in a long time. You're emotionally, spiritually, life is great. And it's going to still do this. And you're still going to have days. You just, like you said, the fear just changes.
It changes. And I got a Facebook message last night from a girl. I love her so much. She is just like the sweetest heart. And she reminds me of me a few years ago. And I just love her. And she said, oh my gosh, because she saw that we were going to see Keith Urban. She goes, how do you have such great work-life balance? And I literally texted her back, LOL. I'm like, oh, sister, it's a good thing you didn't know me 3 years ago, because literally my coach took my phone and my watch away from me. This was like 18 months ago, and said, watch the hummingbirds.
Oh gosh, that was the intensive coaching sessions. Not everybody gets that, you realize.
You will watch these hummingbirds and you will relax.
And it's working for you.
Yeah. I even have wind chimes at my house now.
Ooh. I'm gonna get you some hummingbird feeders.
Okay.
You won't fill them, will you? No.
Bethany might. My daughter might.
Okay. I will talk to her. I'll talk to her. All right, Ryan, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us. Guys, if you are interested in coaching and you are with Keller Williams, please let us know. If you're not with Keller Williams and you're a realtor, that's still fine. We can still work with you. It'll be just a little bit different, but it can be done. So we'll put Ryan's information down below, and thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Yes, I love you.
Right back at you. Love you too.